Okay, great. So, the purpose of this webinar and of this recording is to discuss the benefits of a read and publish agreement, and then walk researchers through the process of submitting the work, creating a profile on Scholar One, and then submitting their manuscript to the journal of their choice. So we are going to start by talking a little bit about the benefits of a read and publish agreement, and what and the goal of the agreement between BMJ Group and the members of CzechELib. So the first main benefit is that through our agreement, researchers have gained access to a wide range of high quality journal titles across 31 medical specialties. And what is also important to note is that at BMJ Group, we have a commitment to continuously growing our portfolio, and the main target of our journals team is to release 60 new titles by 2028. Those among those 60 titles, some of them are going to be hybrid, and some of them are going to be gold open access. And secondly, as we are committed to growing our portfolio, we are also trying to build a cascading portfolio architecture. That means that within all of the medical specialties which we will cover, we will be offering an impact, core, and volume title. The difference between these three types is that an impact title focuses on high quality research that is novel, so it presents novel, new, and potentially revolutionary findings. And core titles also focus on high quality research, but unlike impact titles, may not necessarily need to publish novel findings. And finally, volume titles also focus on very high quality research. However, they will be accepting research manuscripts that are multidisciplinary and have a wider scope than the impact and the core titles, which will focus on very specific topics within the relevant medical specialties. Secondly, one of the benefits of the read and publish process is that it aims to simplify the submission process for researchers, but also make the lives of librarians and those managing the publishing component of the agreement at universities easier. So with the implementation of our read and publish agreement, authors will no longer need to pay individual article processing costs. And also, our current agreement allows for unlimited publishing across the eligible titles. At this point, I want to make a small note, which I will discuss later on, is that for the 3 members that have that currently enrolled in our read and publish agreement, they all have different titles that are eligible within their agreement. So, for example, Maastricht researchers from Maastricht University can publish in gold open access titles, hybrid, and the BMJ, which is one of our gold open access titles, whereas for the other institutions, they're not eligible to publish at our gold open access titles through the read and publish agreement. Of course, they can still submit their work and publish their research, but that would be outside of the scope of the agreement, and they will need to be paying article processing costs. And finally, with our submission process through Scholar One, where researchers will have to select their institution, and that will be matched to their institution's Ringgold ID. We're able to instantly match the manuscript to the correct institution, and which then sends a notification to the librarian to process the submission via the CCC portal, making the review process easy and straightforward. And finally, one of the key benefits of the read and publish agreement that we hope will be well received by the members is that BMJ Group is ranked 8th globally for influencing policy and clinical guidelines, which means that there is higher visibility for the research that we publish, but also our titles are cited globally, which means that there will be greater access to the research that is being published through our titles. And we hope that the research published by the three institutions will not only impact and influence academia, but it will also influence clinical guidelines and health policies nationally and internationally. Now, I want to take a moment to discuss and highlight what falls within the agreement for each institution. As you can see from the table, each institution has a different read and publish license. So I'm going to start with Ostrava University, which where academics can currently publish across the standard collection. So the standard collection includes 25 hybrid titles, and universities, as I already academics from the university, as I already mentioned, can publish an unlimited number of articles within the standard collection. On the other hand, Palacio University, academics can not only publish to the standard collection, but can also publish to the journals collection, which currently includes 9 additional hybrid titles. And of course, again, they also have unlimited publishing within our agreement. And finally, Maastricht University academics can publish within the standard collection, the journals collection with its 9 additional hybrid titles, but also within Gold Open Access titles and the BMJ, which falls within Gold Open Access. And finally, similar to the other 2 institutions, all academics from each of these 3 members can have the ability to publish an unlimited number of articles within the eligible titles. Okay, so then let's talk a little bit about the submission process before we jump into the demonstration. So the first step when an academic wants to submit an article across the BMJ Journals portfolio is to review the eligible journals and article types. In the previous slide, I mentioned that for some universities one university can publish in the standard collection, another can publish in the journals collection, and then Maastricht can publish in both collections plus Gold Open Access titles. And by clicking on this link, you'll be directed to our open access page where academics can review the specific titles that fall within those collections, but also what are the eligible article types. So under our current read and publish agreement, we are only publishing original research articles, but what counts as original research can be a multitude of different articles types, which is why I would highly recommend visiting that page, which I will also do before delving into the demonstration. After reviewing the eligible journals and article types, the academic will have to then choose the appropriate journal that fits the scope of their research. And finally, when they visit the journal, they will have to select and submit manuscript in the journal's author section. And once they start the submission process, they will need to register or log in to Scholar One using their academic email. That is very important. And then also they will have to fill in their institution's name, which will allow us to authenticate their submission using Ringgold ID. This is a very important step because, as I said, by linking the academic to the correct university using the Ringgold ID, once the submission process is completed, then the librarian of the university will receive a notification to approve the manuscript in the CCC portal. And finally, once you have created or logged in to Scholar One and authenticated your institution using the Ringgold ID, you will need to submit the required documents and details, which include the following. So first of all, you will need to submit your manuscript, of course, your paper, you'll need to fill in a title, a summary, and an abstract. But then also in the first page of the submission process, you'll also have to choose for an alternate journal. This is part of a wider effort at BMJ Group to make sure that we publish and do not lose any of the high quality research that is submitted to our papers. And what we have noticed is that sometimes when an article gets submitted that may not fit the scope of the author's first title of choice, that submission then ends up leaving our portfolio, which is why we want to encourage researchers to pick an alternative journal if their manuscript gets rejected. Furthermore, there's going to be a section with authors and institutions where the corresponding author will have to fill in the names and the details of their collaborators. And then there's also a section where they can signal their preferred and non-preferred reviewers for the peer review process. And in the last step of the submission process, they'll have to fill in some additional details and comments, which I will show what that looks like when we go into one of the journals' pages. Once their manuscript has been submitted, their open access manager at the university will be notified via the CCC portal. Again, this is enabled by authenticating the institution using the Ringgold ID, and then the open access manager will make a decision to accept or reject the manuscript. If the manuscript is accepted, then if the manuscript is accepted by the librarian, and then we will start the peer review process and the editorial process. And then if that manuscript gets accepted, it will be sent into production. So before I go into the journals page and discuss and show where an author has to go to select the appropriate journal and what the submission process looks like, I want to make sure that I touch on the requirements for the manuscript to be accepted. So first of all, as I mentioned, under our current read and publish agreement, we only accept original research articles, but of course there is a wide range of papers that count as original research. And secondly, it is really important to choose the appropriate journal. So for each institution, you have to select one of the titles that is eligible under our current agreement, and the author of the paper needs to be, the corresponding author of the paper needs to be from one of the institutions that has an active read and publish agreement, and the university, of course, needs to be and of course the corresponding author needs to be an active member of that university. And also, when creating a profile on Scholar One, they will need to fill in their university name. That allows us to match the manuscript to the correct institution using Ringgold ID, which allows us then to verify the institution and their active license agreement. Furthermore, open access articles will have to have a CC BY NC license, and unless the funding requires unless the funding requires a CC BY license. To clarify, a CC BY NC license is one that is the Creative Commons attribution and non-commercial, and these are default licensing for open access articles. And finally, our the institutional agreement needs to be active. So without further ado, I want to jump into the demonstration of the submission process. So where I am going to start is by looking at by going into our open access agreement page at BMJ, which looks like this. So when academics go into this page, they will then have to select Czech Republic, and here we will list all of the details for our current agreements. So once you enter this page, the first step that an academic needs to do is to select their correct institution. So whether it's Masaryk, Ostrava, and Pulaski. And what you will notice is that once you select the once you select your institution, and this page will be that is generated will show you the details of the read and publish agreement. So, for example, for Maastricht University, you can see that it's a read and publish agreement that includes gold open access journals, whereas for Ostrava, it's just a read and publish agreement. Once you select your correct institution, you can then click on this page, on this link, which will show you what are the eligible the eligible titles, but also the eligible article types that fall within our current agreement. So in the first page, you can see all of the titles that fall within the BMJ Journals collection. And then here you can see which article types fall under an original research. So in order for the manuscript to be accepted, it needs to be an original research article, but as I mentioned, there's a wide range of article types that fall under original research. So the authors need to make sure to review what are these article types. So this is for the journals collection. And then on the second page, we have the titles that are included, the 25 titles that are included in the standard collection. And then on the right-hand side, what are the eligible article types that count as original research. As you will notice, the eligible article types for the journal collection are more than they are for the standard collection, which is why it's very important for the authors to be aware of what is included within the read and publish agreement. And finally, the third page here shows us the eligible article types for BMJ Gold open access journals, which only applies to Maastricht University at this point in time. Now, these prospectus can be very helpful for academics to review the eligible titles, but also the eligible article types. And what I'm going to show you next is what the submission process actually looks like. So I'm going to click on one of the titles that fall under the standard collection, which is the British Journal of Sports Medicine, and that is one of the titles in which academics from all three universities can publish as it falls within the standard collection. So once you enter the journals page, you will then need to go to the section where it says for authors, and here you can begin your submission process. And on this page, you can also review quickly how many days it takes to make a first decision. So once your open access manager accepts your manuscript and is then sent to our editorial team for peer review, it will take approximately 48 days in order to make a first decision. Here you can also see what are the total content views of this journal and also what is its impact factor. You can also familiarize yourself with the editorial policy, but also the scope of the title to decide whether the research that you have conducted fits within the scope. If it does and you're happy to proceed, you can click on Submit Manuscript, which will direct you to this page where you will either have to register a profile in Scholar One, or you'll have to log in with your existing profile. So I'm going to log in, and once you log in, you'll be directed to the home page. And then in order to begin the submission process for your manuscript, you'll have to go to the second tab underlined at their author. And here you will see two things. You'll see the begin submission box that you can click and create a new submission. Or if you have already started a submission previously and you have not completed it, you'll be able to see it and click on it to continue and finalize it. So in this case, I'm going to click on begin submission. And the first thing that I will have to do is to attach my files, so attach my Word document with my manuscript. So as an example, I'm going to attach this Word document, and this can take a few minutes for the file to be uploaded. Great. So once my file is uploaded, then I'll have to start filling in the information that I discussed at the beginning of the presentation, such as the title, the type, the title, and the summary abstract of my manuscript. The first thing that I have to fill in is the type. So here you will see a number of different types of articles. Now, at this point, in order for the manuscript to be accepted under our current read and publish agreement, you will need to select original research. And once you select original research, you can then fill in the rest of the information. Again, you can review on this page and what counts as original research. So, for example, in the standard collection, which is where you'll find the British Journal of Sports Medicine, you can submit a brief communication, brief report, clinical science, extended essay, and so on and so on. But at this point, when you submit your manuscript, you have to select original research. Otherwise, your manuscript will not go through the read and publish agreement. Moving on, you'll have to fill in a title. So I'm going to fill in this random because it will not allow me to show you the next steps. So I fill in my title, I fill in my summary or abstract, and then I'll have to select a relevant subject area. So it is mandatory to select at least one subject area. But if, of course, your manuscript, your research touches on more than this one area, you can add two additional fields below. As you move on, you're required to then fill in an alternate journal. As I mentioned, this is part of an effort to make sure that we publish all of the high quality research that is submitted to our portfolio. So you can then scroll all the way down, and in this section, select where you want your research to be published if it is originally rejected by the British Journal of Sports Science. At this point, it is important to remember what falls under your current agreement. So if, for example, you are affiliated with an institution that only has the standard collection, it would make sense to pick one of the titles that also falls under the standard collection, which again you can review on this page. Now, if your research does not fall within the scope of that title, then of course you'll just have to select one of the titles that does not fall within your license, but that still allows you to publish your research. So in this situation, I'm going to pick injury prevention because it also falls under the standard collection, and then I can move on to the next. Section. As you're going through through the submission process, you can see the menu on the left-hand side where you can see which steps you have currently completed. So here I have already uploaded a file, and I can also upload any additional files if required. I can also fill in the word count, and I will also need to fill in to check that I confirm the following. Here I can also there's also some more mandatory fields that you will have to review, but I'm not going to go into much detail. You can review this at your own time when you're going through your submission process. In step 3, you'll have to fill in any additional authors. So currently I am registered as the corresponding author, but if there are more collaborators, you will need to fill in their email address here, but also the institution with which they are affiliated. On this page, you'll also have to fill in and you have to fill in whether you have used AI in the writing process. If you have, you need to click on that have used AI. That will not. However, what is important to note is that will not decrease the chances of your manuscript being accepted. Of course, we expect and understand that many researchers use AI for the writing process. It is just important for us to know that AI has been employed. In step number 4, you'll have to fill in any preferred or non-preferred reviewers, and in the final step, you can add any additional details and comments, such as your cover letter. Once you have completed every section, you will be able to see a green check mark, and once all of the 5 steps are checked, then you can move on to the review and the submission process, and send your manuscript to your open access manager, who can then review it through the CCC portal. The last thing that I wanted to mention is that in your when you create your profile, it is really important to fill in the correct university. You can make sure that you have registered the correct university by your profile section. So on the top right corner, and you can click on email and name. And what you will see here is the following information. And then here you can also create an ORCID ID that is actually required when you create a new profile. And on this page, you can review your contact details and make sure that you have used that the primary email that you have used is linked to your institution. And on the second page, under address, you'll have to fill in your correct university. If you have filled in a university and it's not matched to its correct Ringgold ID, you will see an exclamation mark here. If you see an exclamation mark, then that means that you have not linked your account to an institution correctly. The way to make sure that you do that is when you start. Is that the main way to ensure that you do that correctly is to start typing your institution, and then instead of just typing enter when you're done, is to select the correct institution from the drop-down menu. Once you have selected your institution, you will see that it will populate this field, and only if it were wrong would I get an exclamation mark. The fact that I don't see an exclamation mark means that you have correctly linked your institution and that you have correctly linked your Ringgold ID, which will then allow your open access manager to review your manuscript through the CCC portal. So that brings me to the end of the demonstration, and to quickly summarize what needs to be done when an academic wants to submit their manuscript with us. The first step is to go to the open access page at BMJ Journals. I have included all of the relevant links at the end of this of the presentation, and select BMJ Open Access Agreements, and then select Czech Republic. You will then be directed to this page where you'll have to select your correct institution. And once you have selected your institution, you can then review the eligible titles and article types under our read and publish agreement. Once you have selected the title that you want to submit the work, you can click on it via this via the prospectus, or you can of course look it up on your browser. And once you enter the journal, you'll have to go to the author section, and then in the author section select submit a manuscript, and at that point you'll either have to create a profile in Scholar One or log in to your existing profile and then go through the process that I just demonstrated. I see we have one question, and please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Konstantinos, does it matter in the drop-down menu in the submission system if I choose, for example, Ostrava or Faculty of Economics Ostrava?
So, in the drop-down
Yes.
menu in the submission, I don't think it matters, but I will have to ask actually internally, because I saw that for Ostrava there were a number of options that came up.
Yes.
But I don't think it would be an issue, because I would imagine that it would have the same Ringgold ID if you choose from a different faculty. Isn't that correct, Ola?
I think you are correct. I think if you click the same institution, different faculty, the Ringgold ID should match. However, I will double check with our support team after that.
Yeah.
I'll let you know, just to be 100% sure, but that should be the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We sometimes have problems in other systems with this, and we have to really manually clear any 5 names of the institutions, but I do believe everything will be recognized. And another one, it's more for us. In the submission problem, you ask the authors about the use of AI.
Yes.
And link to some document. If yes, please check here. Could we please read that document? Is it something we could read? So just so we have an idea.
Sorry,
Would that be okay?
So I'm not sure I follow. What is it that you need?
Okay, in the submission process, there are
Yes.
2 questions for the authors, whether they use AI.
Yes.
There is, if yes, then refer to this document or something. Click here.
Yes. So
yeah, that's the guidance. Okay. Yeah, but
yes. Okay. Oh, you mean you'd like a copy of that? Okay. Well, this one is actually so at the end of the presentation, I have
okay,
I have
sorry.
linked. No, it's absolutely fine. It's a good question. At the end of the presentation, I have linked a number of resources with relevant links, including the ones where you can review what is included in the Read and Publish agreement. One of the links is to the BMJ Author Hub, where we provide resources for authors, and the second section is AI use. So if you were to when you click here on the please click here for further guidance on our AI policy. It directs you to this page where authors can familiarize themselves with what is okay. What is okay when it comes to AI use, and how we and how they can employ it when they are writing the research.
Okay, perfect. We will come back to that. And another question: when they submit the manuscript and